Deputy Murnane O'Connor. I apologise. I didn't realise that you were substituting.
Oh no, you're fine. No, not at all, Carola. Minister, I'd like to ask the next steps with regard to the establishment of the National Memorial Archive for Survivors of Institutional Abuse, when work will commence at the proposed Dublin 1 site, and if you will make a statement on the matter.
Thank you, Deputy. On the 24th of March, the Government approved the high-level proposals for a National Centre for Research and Remembrance. And the establishment of the National Centre is a core commitment in the Action Plan for survivors and former residents of mother and baby and county home institutions. The National Centre will be located on the site of the former Magdalen Laundry on Sean McDermott Street in Dublin 1. It will stand as a site of conscience and will be a national memorial to honour equally all of those who are resident in mother and baby homes, industrial schools, reformatories, Magdalen laundries and related institutions. The National Centre will include a museum, an exhibition space, a central repository of records related to institutional trauma and a research centre. It will also contain a dedicated place for solemn reflection and remembrance. In addition, as part of the development of the site, social housing units, local community facilities and an educational and early learning facility will be constructed. The inclusion of these facilities will make a valuable contribution to the social and economic development of Dublin's north-east inner city. While physically situated in Dublin, the National Centre will be accessible for all survivors, whether in other parts of Ireland or abroad. It will provide digital access to records and exhibits, as well as developing physical presences elsewhere, including in conjunction with some local museums, to enable survivors to visit more easily. In this way, the Centre will be a national institution which achieves a global and national reach, as well as strong connections to and benefits for the local community. Work is underway to progress the initial planning and development stages of the National Centre, and this is being driven by a steering group chaired by the former Secretary-General to the Government and Ambassador Designate to the United Kingdom. The steering group has met on 2 occasions to date and will meet again this month. It is currently establishing a number of work streams spanning various technical aspects of the initiative, as well as engagement with survivors and engagement with local community in Dublin's north inner city. This will ensure that the development of the National Centre is directly informed by those most centrally involved, their families and representatives. The creation of the National Centre is a major multi-annual project. While I'm not in a position to provide a definitive timeline as yet, an indicative timeline of 5 years has been provided to me by the steering group, and it is hoped that some initial maintenance and structural work to facilitate building surveys could take place on site this year.
Thank you, Minister. The establishment of the National Memorial Record Centre, it's a central commitment in the Action Plan for survivors and former residents of the mother and baby and county home institutions. It is right we remember, honour and pay respect to those who were resident in mother and baby homes, county homes, in industrial schools, Magdalen laundries and related institutions. I do know that the Government Action Plan contains a number of initiatives to respond to the needs of the survivors through a variety of commitments, including access to information and records, memorialisation, financial payments, health supports and other key initiatives. I particularly welcome the Government is committed to advancing these actions in a survivor-centred manner and to ongoing engagement with dialogue with survivors. And Minister, I've brought this up several times. Timing is so important for survivors here, and I would ask that we try and get this through as quickly as possible. I do understand that a cross-government process is underway to advance works on this, as you said there a minute ago, and I know that is really important. And again, you said that this is going to be in consultation with survivors, so I do welcome that.
Thank you. Minister.
Thanks, Deputy. And look, you're right in this space of our response to legacy issues. Timing is important. I suppose this is one that is going to take longer than some of the other actions in terms of it's a major building project. It's going to have very positive impacts, I believe, for survivors and former residents and their families, but also for the wider community in Dublin's north-east inner city in terms of a social housing element, an education element, an early years element as well. But in terms of that central right of access to information, of course, we have been moving very quickly on that, and last night we finished the information and tracing bill in the Shannon at committee stage, and we'll be going to report stage on that legislation after the recess. So that really central piece of legislation to allow immediate access to information will be passed shortly, and this longer term piece in terms of a place where records can be held, can be accessed appropriately, but where there's a site of memorial and a site of conscience as well, is also being progressed.
And I do welcome that. And Minister, I did ask you about the timescale of when the works would commence, and you weren't able to give me that, because I do know there is a planning process to go through. But just while we are speaking of survivors, I really would ask you about the enhanced medical cards. That is something that I have been asked several times about, and I would ask that we work on that straight away. It is of the utmost importance. And just in regards to the role of local authorities to deliver on commitment, on support, on memorialisation initiatives across the country, what is the progress on that? Because I believe all local authorities have a role to play here, and I think it's important that survivors in all the different parts of the country, that there is talks with all the local authorities, and that there is communication, and that we look at something going forward. So can I just ask you, what way is that being addressed also, Minister? And I do know, again, Minister, that you have worked tirelessly on this, and I know you have definitely worked with all of us within the Children's Committee, and I do want to welcome that. But again, my last thing is, Minister, timing is so important on payment, on medical cards, on whatever. Thank you so much.
Minister, to conclude.
Thanks, Deputy. In terms of the enhanced medical card, that will be as part of the institutional payments bill, and the general scheme of that is being discussed, as you know, Deputy, in your own committee at PLS right now. And I know the committee is working hard to get that report, and we will be introducing that legislation early in the September term, with a view to getting it passed and operational by the end of the year. In terms of that very important element of local authority engagement, I think that's really important too. And I've worked. My department has been engaging with the Department of Housing and Local Government. There has been a group meeting. I know a report was sent to me, I think, at the start of this week. I haven't had a chance to go through it in detail. I hope to read it maybe over next week and engage with that group, and maybe I can provide you a fuller update at that point, Deputy. But there is work going in terms of memorialisation, but also how local authorities can better support former residents of these institutions.